heart of Virginia, there's a stretch of pavement that has ingrained itself in American racing history. Built in 1957 with just a bulldozer and a plot of land, Virginia International Raceway has become an icon. Over the years since its reopening in 2000, it has hosted IMSA, the American Le Mans Series, NASCAR, SCCA, and Champ Car races. Legends have raced there, including Roger Penske, Mark Donohue, Richard Petty, Hurley Haywood, Dan Gurney, and more. Between turns 11 and 12 stood a defying feature, an old oak tree. This tree stood untouched, shading the south end of the course for decades. For some, oak tree became a symbol of VIR and a reminder of how road courses used to be built. They used to be built with the lay of the land, following each contour and moving around obstacles, not through them. Earth may have been moved, but not tarnished. Oak tree was a lasting memory of when tracks were not just built, they came to be, like the tree. Although oak tree no longer stands, nor does Hog Pen, turn 17, the corners both still bear the name of what used to exist. And the track stays unchanged the way it was meant to be, with the lay of the land, for the land. Maybe that's why Paul Newman called it heaven on earth.
Virginia International Raceway is a home track to many in the Washington, D.C. region SCCA Virtual Racing League. With the summer days approaching and bringing the promise of more sun and more real-world racing, the simulators will shut off for the season in just a few weeks. But first, we must return to VIR, where we contested around in GT3 cars over a month ago. But have the power, have the track, and double the classes. This is WDCR SCCA Virtual Racing League from the South Course at VIR. My name's Kyle Heyer, joined tonight by Tom O'Gorman. Glad to have you back, Tom. It's been a while since we've seen you around these parts. Glad to have you with us for the penultimate round of the season.
It has definitely been a while. It's great to be back, and I'm super excited to watch this one because it has always been a blast watching the Group 1 cars. We've got Mustangs, we've got Miatas sharing the track here on the VIR South Course, a layout almost never used. So we're really challenging people to leave their comfort zones tonight for this race.
Got two classes. We've got the MX-5s and the Mustangs. That's the big bore category. MX-5s are on the racetrack right now. Riding on board here with Sly Stafford here, Tom. I want to ride on board with the 719 here and get an idea for what the South Course is like. Essentially, we still run the Oak Tree section, the good part, I think, down at the bottom end of the racetrack here. But when we head up the back straightaway, that's where the track actually starts and where we take a little bit of a different route than normal.
Yeah, this is the track that actually utilizes this pit lane that's on your left. So we're going to come across the start-finish line here. This is still a very long straightaway by VIR standards, but what's tricky is the braking zone for what becomes turn numbers 1 and 2 is completely blind. It's so hard to figure out where to brake, especially because there are very few markers up here, but you're going to see the cars get hard on the brakes, brake markers on your left side, and then they come down into what is affectionately known as the bitch, and that's because it is so hard to get this corner right. It's very long, it's very slow, and it's just an odd spot to slow the car down. Now we're on the Patriot circuit through turns 3 into the spiral at turns 4, 5, and 6. That's going to be this blind crest, another incredibly challenging section of racetrack, especially in the bigger Mustangs. Then we get a little bit of a break through the fishhook and back onto the familiar upper S's through the South Bend and Oak Tree corners. That's 12 corners total for the South Circuit here. This is that hook back onto the upper S's.
So really, the challenging part is once you get onto the Patriot course, Tom, and that downhill left-hander, it's blind. That's probably, I think, the most challenging corner on this racetrack. If you're expecting it and you get used to it, you practice it a bunch, easy peasy lemon squeezy. First time here, that catches you out every single time.
And I guarantee most of these guys have never driven this circuit before practicing for this week. And with you mentioned already, a lot of real-world motorsports are happening at this point. These guys all enthusiasts in the real world too. They've been to a racetrack or an autocross already this season. I can promise you the emphasis on the simulator has backed off just a little bit, but this is looking hot and heavy here in qualifying. Look at these guys drafting down the front straight.
Yeah, so Sly Stafford in the 719, he's the car pulling off to driver's right. That's the 4 of Forrest Landy driving by, currently 6th in qualifying here. Ryan Maloney topping the charts. Morgan Burkhardt in the 2 car in 2nd. Ken House-Seal in 3rd. Whoa, big dive by the Burkhardt car up the inside of the 4. Notably, no DJ Alessandrini tonight. He's working on the race car, as you mentioned. A lot of people transitioning from the sim to the real world as as well as us. It's been a while since I've sat down to do one of these streams from here, so it feels a little weird, but we're back in it at least for two more rounds. This is the finale for the Group 1 cars, and we'll have the finale for the Group 2 cars in 2 weeks' time, and that will be the end of the season. So our field count is a little bit smaller than it was in the past couple rounds, and notably so in the Mustangs. Right now, Tom, we've got about 14 MX-5s, but only about 6 or 7 Mustangs. That's a pretty small field, and it's going to make the racing a little different than we're normally used to seeing.
It is, but we do have most of the heavy hitters here. As you mentioned, maybe a couple missing, but this is the finale for Group 1. This is when the championships come down to the line, and right now in the championship for the MX-5s, it is Ryan Maloney leading, but only over 6 points to Ken Hausiel, and Hausiel was quickest in practice. Currently, it is Maloney quickest in qualifying, and now they jump to the top 2. Looks like Maloney just got a little bit of a help through the oak tree corner, but things are really tight, and there are prizes on the line. These guys win a track night in America, by my understanding, to win this championship. So, yeah, smaller car counts, but not smaller stakes, I would say.
Absolutely. I'd say the stakes are as high as they've ever been. This is one of the coolest prize seasons I can remember in recent memory, and Ken Hausiel is up for that right now. And the 23 comes across the line, needs to beat a 1:14.840 to advance up onto provisional pole. Isn't able to do it. We split qualifying into 2 here, Tom, so the MX-5s will get 15 minutes, the Mustangs will get 15 minutes, but it's going to be a slightly more crowded racetrack for the MX-5 qualifying and the draft here. This isn't a very big racetrack, but the draft is still going to play a pretty sizable factor, I would imagine.
Yeah, and you think about, it's the South Circuit, it's a smaller version of VIR, but it's still 2.25 miles. I mean, this is a pretty big track by length, and you have a couple of longer straightaways, and cars like MX-5s, those longer straightaways, you really get a draft working. Right now, Ryan Maloney has matched his practice time. Ken Hausiel is 0.8 of a second, 0.6 of a second off of his practice time, so maybe Hausiel has an opportunity to capitalize. I think he's got 10 more minutes of qualifying here if I remember the format correctly.
Yes.
I think they have until about 16 minutes remaining on the clock, so maybe about 8 minutes left, actually.
Yeah, not a ton of time. Well, I guess I would say that there's not a ton of time, but there's enough clearance on this racetrack where you should be able to get a clean lap. There's Louis Alessi in the number 43, the student driver car here. And I'd have to imagine a lot of people feel like student drivers. We mentioned that downhill left, but this entire infield section where you're sort of cutting between the 2 major sides of this course, they're challenging corners. There's a lot of elevation here, and even going up into turn 1, that's a blind corner. The braking markers will help you, but otherwise you can't really spot the apex until you're on top of it. So lap 1, got to keep your eyes open.
And you've also got to remember what's going on with this layout. You see Ken Hausiel missing the corner here. It's so normal for you to focus all the way down to the roller coaster at VIR. It's just really weird to break in the middle of the back straightaway. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of people get caught off guard, especially in a hot and heavy wheel-to-wheel environment tonight when you're going to maybe forget that you got to brake.
So this is your sight line. I love the sign placed here to help you sort out exactly when you need to stop. But watching Ken Hausiel come up over the crest of this, I mean, that corner comes on top of you so fast, Tom. If you're not prepared for it, it will catch you off guard. I think we're going to see a lot of people just running wide tonight. Now, the good news is there's not a ton to hit here. There's a couple plastic barriers at the ends of some of the longer straightaways, but other than that, you're pretty much racing in a golf course. So there's not a lot to run into. Yeah,
and these guys do have an incident limit for the evening's race. I believe it's 25 incidents, so they can drop a lot of tires, but you do have to keep your P's and Q's straight. Back to the championship, Jamison Huffman is in 3rd right now. He's only 18 points back from Ryan Maloney. He's only 12 back from Ken Hausiel, so I wouldn't count him out either. He sits 5th in overall qualifying right now. They're in the number 89 car. So this is a driver that might be kind of a quiet force in the championship. And if you remember, he started off really strong at Lime Rock on kind of a weird layout of that track.
Well, and thinking back to Lime Rock, you mentioned to me before we went live how this is a very similar racetrack to Lime Rock in that there's a lot of cars on a pretty small, tight course. So some of the things that made Jamison Huffman good at Lime Rock might translate here better than they would at some of the bigger tracks we've been to.
Perhaps. And the other thing that's similar is the spread between the Mustangs and the MX-5s is not that big here because of how much of the circuit is on that Patriot course where the Mustangs just don't handle good enough to really get a fast lap through here.
Whoa! That was dicey.
The Mustangs are really only going to gap down this front straightaway, which is normally the back straightaway in VIR. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some interclass interaction be a bit of a challenge tonight.
You see there's an overhead look of that first corner. And arcing out of that, heading downhill towards the corner that I would call bitch if I was the one that naming the racetrack, that's for sure. But Louis Alessi right now trying to get a clean lap in. He struggled the opening part of qualifying here. Ken Halseal just jumped to the top of the board, a 1:14.650, puts him just shy of 2/10 up on Ryan Maloney. Burkhardt stays third, Peter Schnorr in fourth, Jamison Huffman in fifth, who we mentioned a moment ago. So have a look at our weather conditions here as well, as Halseal gets a little bit of room on the racetrack. Air temp 68, track temp 76, pretty cool day, and I don't think track temp is going to be a huge issue. My one concern, though, is see the partly cloudy. Those are when that condition is when you generally see the biggest swing in track temps, because when the clouds go away, this place will get real hot. When the clouds come over, it cools down very quickly. So we could see track temp swing from 76 all the way to 115 in the span of only a matter of minutes. We'll see if that is a factor this afternoon. Again, VIR located in Alton, Virginia, population 2,200. Constructed originally in 1957, had a pretty long period of not being utilized. It was reconstructed in the 90s, and you can see closed from 74 until 2000, and the famous oak tree fell down in 2013 due to a lightning strike. So a couple interesting factoids there about VIR as Halseal comes back across the line, getting a slipstream here. That, I believe, was the number 4 car of Forrest Landy, who's dropped all the way to 8th in qualifying here. And the spread amongst the MX-5s is pretty tight at the top of the board between Halseal and Maloney as they're sort of trading blows back and forth here. But then it drops off really quickly from David Stern on back, 1.2, 2.9, 2.2 back. It seems like this is a pretty tricky track to get fast at unless you put a lot of hours in.
You got to have a lot of hustle to get the car through the infield quickly. You see Ken Halseal jumping the corners down through 4, 5, and 6, getting the car rotated really, really aggressively there to get off of turn number 6. Was that Jamison Huffman or maybe his teammates taking a spin there at turn 6 as well? That's the kind of hustle you got to get to have pace, but you also got to be willing to keep the car on the limit and not lose control of it. So maybe if some of these drivers that are a little bit less familiar still getting up to pace, but you're right, even basically the top 9 really are kind of on the same pace. Sebastian Landy just jumping over Jack Chrissy, Forrest Landy behind them. That'll be a fun battle there. They're all sitting in the mid-15s qualifying for 6th on back.
Love this view from under the oak tree here. Ken Halseal squeezing on by over the edge of the curbing. Ryan Maloney is trying to respond to Halseal's assault on the provisional pole time, and that time through does not go any quicker, but he did close in slightly. The gap is now down to 58 thousandths of a second. It was just shy of 2/10 a few laps ago. So Maloney's still actively working on that. How about well over 100 miles an hour off into this braking zone? Pretty fast down there into turn 1. It'll catch you out. Even these little Miatas can get up pretty quick down there.
It'll be interesting to see. There are 6 Mustangs entered into the event tonight. If all of them qualify, that means that Ken Halseal will also end up on the preferred driving line entering turn number 1 on driver's right. But if anybody in the Mustangs doesn't grid, it's going to actually put Ryan Maloney on driver's right going into turn number 1. Ken Halseal on the outside. So this could be an interesting drag race between the top 2, depending on how many Mustangs grid.
And like the full course, the first corner here is pretty much a 180-degree turn. So if it's not like a place like Road America or Watkins Glen where you can hang on that outside through turn 1. You're probably going to get left in the dust if you're starting on driver's left. So you're going to really want that inside line, but it's not really up to you. Halseal working his way, so much elevation here. These MX-5s, man, this has got to be such a fun racetrack with these things. So nimble, so lightweight, just enough power to make them a little bit tail happy. And around a track like this, they really come alive. The Mustangs are probably going to feel a little claustrophobic around here.
Maybe a bit, and the other interesting point will be the tires. Is the Miatas do come up to temp pretty quickly. They're probably fastest from laps maybe 2 to 4 here at this circuit. The Mustangs take forever to bring tire temps up, and the more you get tire temp in the tires, the faster they go. So it might be, you're going to need all of qualifying to get fast laps out of the Mustangs, where in the Miatas you get to reset a couple of times.
I wanted to take a note of something I saw here on Ken Halseal's car the last time that he came on through. And this is seemingly a characteristic of the MX-5s in general, but watch him as he comes down the hill here into the tight braking zone. Have a look here at the brake rotors. You notice how much glow is in the rear brakes. That is a peculiar arrangement of brake rotor glow time. I would expect the front brakes to also be glowing at the very least, but here the rear's getting a workout.
And I don't suspect you would see that in real life, but it does look cool here in iRacing, and you're right. They're going to rely on the front brakes a lot more, but the rear brakes seem to be getting a workout as even throughout the field, everybody's got rear rotors glowing.
So Halseal still sitting on provisional pole as they're wrapping up their last couple laps here, and the Mustangs beginning their rollout of the grid. Again, big thundering 325 horsepower V8 motors in these things. They don't have a ton of tire on them, so they are a little tail happy. If you get on throttle a little bit too quick, they got plenty of torque, and there's a handful of them, 6 to be exact. Francois Brou, Andrew Chow, Will Robbins, Peter Lawson, Dave Fitzgerald, and Murphy Nichols, who was very quick in practice. So curious to see if Murphy Nichols can pull out a victory tonight. This is a great opportunity to put that Smoketown Brewing Station car into victory lane. That would be a really phenomenal run for him. I should also note that we will not be around for post-race interviews, so just for Murphy's sake, I really hope that he doesn't win, just so that he doesn't not get an interview. So if he does win, we will interview him before the GT3 race at the next round, because I would hate to miss that one. But Murphy rolling right now in the number 5 on his warm-up lap. Dave Fitzgerald making a rare appearance here in the Mustangs. Working his way around, a little bit tail happy there on cold tires. And you were mentioning how tricky it can be for these cars to work up the temperature. Is that rear tire temp or front tire temp, or all 4 tires that seem to be a challenge?
It's all 4 for raw pace, but it is mostly the fronts. These cars can be incredibly pushy, and I find that the brake release is key for getting the car to handle well. So we're going to see a lot of opposite lock coming off corners, a lot of rear end stepping out, but also you've got to get the car rotating into the corner because they just don't turn all that great. And they are a lot of fun when you figure out that balance. But I've just taken the moment while you were talking there to scroll through the championship standings. None of the top 4 are present in this race, and both Murphy Nichols and Peter Lawson, who are present, are within enough points to take over the top spots in the championships. But they have to finish in the top 3 to catch up to Thomas Layton, who is currently the championship leader. So they do have to work together a bit to make sure they don't finish off of the podium if they want to win the championship. But it's open for Murphy Nichols and Peter Lawson to actually take the win here.
Well, it's a good opportunity to get some clean points in here with a smaller field and class interaction, which is unlikely at the front of the Mustang field. You're not going to lap the MX-5s in this short of a race. Again, the race will be 30 minutes long, so you're not going to see the Mustangs go around and lap the MX-5s by any stretch. If anything, it'll be the MX-5s driving through the back half of the Mustang field. Fitzgerald comes on through a 127.0, puts him a couple seconds off of Peter Lawson, the current provisional pole sitter. Andrew Chow about a 1/10.5 back. And Murphy Nichols still working up to his first lap. We'll see what it is as he comes across the line here. Was quickest in practice and first time across the line. We'll jump to provisional pole, a 1:13.826. Robbins second, a 1:14.381. So put Murphy Nichols on provisional pole by half a second. That's a pretty good first lap.
Make a correction. They actually have to finish top 2. And mathematically, Peter Lawson actually has to win the race to win the championship. So it's going to be it's high stakes for these guys to win that track night in America. But again, these cars are going to take 3-4 laps to get up to pace. So I wouldn't be surprised to see those times continue to tumble throughout. But also take note of the MX-5 time, a 14.6. That's 4th in the Mustangs. There's not a lot of spread there.
No, there certainly isn't. And I think we're going to see the MX-5s, at least time-wise, be slotted somewhere between 3rd and 6th in the Mustangs. That's probably where they're going to stay. The MX-5s really have the weight advantage there. There's brake rotors going on the Mustangs in the more traditional location up front. Both of these cars do have ABS. Neither have traction control. Again, not a huge deal in the power levels we're talking about in these cars. But the ABS is helpful, especially in some of the braking zones that will kind of lead you into some kinked areas. And nice to be able to get on the brakes and not have the inside front tire lock up. So you can lean on the brakes pretty heavily in these cars, but both seem to benefit from not getting fully on the pedal, Tom. You're still sort of threshold braking these things as if they didn't have ABS.
Absolutely, yeah. That's where I talk about the brake release. You got to stay out of the ABS in these cars, and you have to be able to rotate them on the brakes on the corner entries, especially some of the more longer sustained corners. It's really easy to get into that ABS, and then all of a sudden you want to be turning, and the car just pushes. Coming down into turn 1 would be an ideal spot, for, not ideal, but a prime spot for that to happen. You're just into the ABS, trying to make the corner, and the car just won't turn because of it.
Watching Dave Fitzgerald work his way around the rest of the uphill S's here at VIR and then into South Bend at the crest of the hill. Significantly easier on this layout to navigate South Bend. That's typically a very touchy corner on the opening lap, but you're really not even up to terminal velocity yet on this course, so it should be a little easier this time around. Really, I think the hardest 2 corners are at the beginning of the lap. It's really the first corner, then that secondary left that brings you over the crest. Everything else feels fairly standard and straightforward.
Well, that's just it, too. You're going to arrive at those corners side by side at some point, wheel-to-wheel racing at the start of the race. So maybe not the front 2 rows, 3 rows, but especially back in the back of the MX-5s, you're going to have to navigate to the 2 hardest corners on the track, potentially side by side. So you got to stay clean early on because it's a 30-minute race. That's not a short race.
No, not for a track like this. The other thing I wanted to note was the straightaway speed of the Mustangs, specifically heading up the hill towards turn 1. If we do have any lap traffic interaction, I suspect the difference in speed between the Mustang and MX-5 will be significant going into turn 1 because you're going uphill, and those MX-5s have no torque. They're going to be doing about 104, 105 max. Mustangs are doing about 125 to 130 there, so that will be a pretty hairy situation if we do have any lap traffic to deal with. I don't think we will, but we could.
And we already talked about how tricky it is to get mentally prepared to break in the middle of the back straightaway of VIR in the first place. But I also think the infield is such that if the Mustang doesn't make the pass on the MX-5 coming into turn 1, probably not going to happen until coming back onto the main circuit through South Bend. Maybe not even until the actual straightaway itself. Ooh, Fitzgerald goes for a ride. But at the top, Murphy Nichols has reclaimed pole position over Andrew Chow.
Another look at how Dave Fitzgerald found himself off course, just slid going into Oak Tree, and wow, that's a pretty big hit there, actually. Easy to do that, easy to step off the edge. Dave did that, and we'll have to reset and go for another lap here in qualifying. Murphy Nichols, though, as you mentioned, 113, 238. He's still out there trying to go faster because he knows the others will try to do the same. And where you start is going to be crucial tonight. Even with such a small field, I really feel like qualifying is going to set you up for a strong run tonight.
And look at that, he betters it just now. So we're hitting kind of prime time on Mustang tires here. Now, what can everybody else do? It's Andrew Chow, Will Robbins, Peter Lausen. Remember, we mentioned Lausen has to win this race to win the championship, and he is within points distance that if he wins, he has it sealed. So is Murphy Nichols, though.
And Lausen's 7/10 back from Murphy Nichols, which, where Andrew Chow is, I think Andrew Chow could go quicker and beat Murphy, but I don't think Peter Lausen has the pace, at least from what I've seen so far here in qualifying. He could surprise us later in the session with a better lap, but right now it's looking like winning this race might be a bit of a stretch for Peter, but you never know what could happen. And especially in small grids like this, Tom, people tend to be a little bit more aggressive because they know the consequences aren't so dire if you get knocked off course or fall off course.
Sure, that is only 4th place, so it's not unreasonable for him to race his way up to the front, but I do think this track is going to be so hard to race on. See how tight the hairpin is. The fish hook, they call it, coming back onto the main circuit up through into South Bend. We also just had, looks like Danny Gross just connected in an MX-5. Yes. He will not have a qualifying time, but he's a scrappy racer, and that would be fun to watch him come from the back.
He'll be starting 15th in class, which is a whole 8 rows back from the start, so I think we'll see a lot of aggression there. Lausen works under Oak Tree. Slipstream in the Mustangs, traditionally not as important as in the MX-5s. We saw it play a slight factor back at Watkins Glen, but I don't think today you're going to get up fast enough where that's really going to be significant. Across the line for the drivers. Andrew Chow did go quicker and close that gap significantly to Murphy Nichols. It's a 1:13.325, puts him a 10.5 off of the number 5 car out front. Murphy's still trying to go faster to defend from losing that pole position, but this is going to be a pretty good fight between these two. I can feel this already.
And those two fighting will keep Robbins and Lausen in the hunt as well. Francois Brou is in the 5th spot in class. He's actually 13th overall, so he would only be mid-pack now as he jumps up to 7th overall, finds his way into the 14s that time through. He's his goal is always Mr. Clean. So if he can get 0 incidents in this race, he'll be happy.
And again, I feel like if you can, this track, other than the 2 places I mentioned that I dislike personally, it's actually fairly easy to stay on track here. There's not a lot of super fast corners where you're sort of at the limit of the car in a place where you could step off the line easily, like a place like Spa or Le Mans, that's something like that. You're going fairly slow around the tricky bits, so you should have a pretty easy time keeping it on course. And for Francois collecting some bonus points for staying clean, this is the place to do it. Painfully, well, as I say that, runs very slowly off course.
Getting it out of the system.
You might as well do it now. Fitzgerald seems like he's struggling with getting the car up to pace here. And again, if you didn't have a lot of time to practice, which I suspect Dave didn't, it is a challenge as Murphy Nichols just laid down a flyer. How about a 12.8 there, Tom? That's really fast.
Really fast. And as we mentioned, these cars just get faster and faster and faster. And some of the other series, they race maybe 25, 30 minutes. They're continuing to get faster until almost the end of that run. So he's stayed out the entire time, and that car is continuing to get quicker. With that said, so is Andrew Chow, so is Will Robbins, so is Peter Lausen. They don't only get faster, but they get easier to drive as well with more grip.
I was watching Murphy's hands. He's getting after it right now. What was it? Fast in the slow stuff, slow in the fast stuff in relation to the hands?
Say that again?
Fast in the slow stuff, slow in the fast stuff with the hands.
Yeah, that's accurate.
It's a quote from The Art of Racing in the Rain.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Cars.
No. that's where most of my racing quotes come from.
Fast and Furious.
Maybe. That's a bit earlier than my time, Tom. But across the line for Murphy, again, another high 12. No improvement. Andrew Chow across the line. We'll see if he can break into the 12s as well.
He improved.
Not enough to knock Murphy off the pole, though. Still 5 minutes to go in the session. Charged that one real fast, though.
Got it squared up nicely. Come off the corner, you see just a little bit too much rear end movement there as he comes off of turn 2. And you brake right in this compression. As soon as you're going back uphill, slow the car, chuck it in. You got to turn way before you can see where you're going, and then just hold on down the hill.
I don't think you can see where you're going in this car. The dashboard's so high that you're sort of looking down. A lot of action there through the hairpin.
Sawing at the wheel with the lumberjack arms. You see the the print on his driver's suit.
Yeah, it's well, that was a misshift there. And that's the other thing about both of these cars is that they're both traditional H-pattern manual gearboxes. And the Mustang specifically, you can't really easily get away without heel-toe downshifting this car. Now, that was an upshift scenario. This car is actually fairly tricky to shift if you don't get it just right. It's actually sort of annoying. So a lot of the drivers were going to probably struggle and miss shifts, especially in the slow stuff where you're frantically between gears, second, third. It's going to all feel very awkward. Try to slam it into gear, miss it, super easy.
Yeah, you're kind of assuming that you're going to miss a shift at some point in the Mustang. You're right. It is kind of annoying, actually. This is the one downside to this car in my mind. But the MX-5s, you can drive without a clutch on downshifts. You do have to use the clutch on the upshift, but you do have to be pretty finessed about it. So it's possible to miss shifts in both. But if you get through a 30-minute race without missing a shift in a Mustang, you've really accomplished something, because I can't do it.
It's pretty hard. I still have an active world record in this car at Watkins Glen in qualifying with no draft assistance. However, I still misshift this car all the time. So there's no such thing as being too good at the Mustang. It will bite you, that's for sure.
Robbins and Lausen have both picked up a couple of tenths each, but they're still sitting 3rd and 4th in class. Got probably 2 more goes at it, I would say.
Yeah, if that. Again, about a minute, just over a minute, 12 lap times here. You get to finish out the session entirely. As we worked on through the slow stuff. The Mustang does sound better, though. I'll give it that.
It does. Peter Lausen is actually off track right now, so there is no chance that he will go faster, because the tires will not come up to temp in time for him to go quicker. But the top 3 could still shuffle a bit.
Murphy Nichols is still trying to go faster, but now he's starting to go slower, which tells me he's going consistently slower every single lap. So that tells me that the tires are past their prime, or he's gotten them heated past the point of adding grip to the race car. And I think Andrew Chow's in that spot too, a 1:14.0. That could have been a warm-up lap here. He might have one more good lap in him, but I think lap 11, I think you're past the prime.
The other interesting point about these cars is the fuel tank in the rear. The less fuel it has in it, the harder it is to drive. And most of the time you would dump all the fuel out of it for qualifying and try to make it as light as possible. The Mustang's the opposite. You want as much fuel in it as possible when the tires hit their prime, because the car becomes wildly loose, almost undrivable with no fuel in it. So I also wonder, maybe is Murphy running pretty low fuel in the car, might be getting a little bit loose on him.
Solid rear axle, big old Mustangs. This is some America technology here. And, that was a bit of a wobble there for Chow on corner exit as he heads up the hill towards South Bend. And realistically, I think that qualifying, at least our order, is likely already set with Murphy Nichols on provisional pole for now. Well, that was a 12.9. That was right back up there. That was only a couple hundredths off of going quicker. So he might have just had a moment a lap or two ago. We'll see if Chow can do the same. Needs to beat a 12.884. And that was a 14.1. So I don't think Chow's got much left. Murphy, though, he's getting after it. He's looked a little smoother in recent laps as well.
This is great practice for the race. I mean, 15 minutes sustained, that's half the race distance. So he's getting a good run in here to kind of figure out what the balance of the car is going to do, at least for the first half of the race. The second half will be a bit of a mystery, but that's where the fun lies, you know?
I love watching Murphy right now. He's got this car dialed in a very comfortable spot. Whoop, got a bit of a curbing there on exit, had a bit of a wobble, but I love watching his hands so smooth until the center that he gets back on the power and just drives it off the rear tires on exit, maximizing the grip that he's got. And if this isn't faster, it'll be pretty close. This is a really good lap for Murphy here. Down a gear. But then getting off of that curb out of Oak Tree, getting back on the power, that's a crucial point. And he'll get one more lap here, but I'm not sure that he's going to need it. That time through a 12.975. And Andrew Chow still needs to go 4/10 better, which I just don't think he's going to do. Across the line for Chow, that was better, but not faster. 1:13.6. That was 0.4 off of improving on his own time. So with the checkered flag coming down here shortly, I would imagine that we are pretty close to seeing our official lineup. Dave Fitzgerald did pick up a little bit of time at 1:15.5 is where he settled. And the last two drivers out on course trying to make time stick. Right out to the edge. There's no curb out there either, Tom, so if you clip that grass, I'll send you for a bit of a slide, kind of unload that left rear tire very quickly and very surprisingly.
It's just such a slow corner, and that means now we've got our top 4 Mustangs faster than MX-5s. 2 of them will be slower than our front-running MX-5s, but it is a split start, so it will take a long time for the classes to have to interact. But with the split start and the spread at the bottom of the MX-5s, I wouldn't be surprised to see lap traffic influence the Mustang race in the closing stages.
Murphy Nichols across the line. No faster he will go, but he will sit on pole if Andrew Chow can't beat a 1:12.884, which I don't think he's going to do as he slid out of the final corner. And across the line for Andrew Chow, no improvement. A 1:13.246 is as fast as he will go. That will put Murphy Nichols and Ken House-Seal on pole for their respective classes here at VIR. One thing I noticed is that I believe Oak Tree is turn 12 on the normal layout and also turn 12 on this layout, or is it turn 13 on the normal layout? It's awful close.
It is turn 12 on the normal layout.
Okay, so they actually kept Oak Tree the same corner number,
yeah,
which I think is actually kind of neat.
I guarantee you that's why they have 6A numbered the way it is.
They're pulling some Sonoma strats.
Or turn 3, they added that as.
Yeah. Thankfully, it's not Sonoma, where it seems like they just add corners for the fun of it.
Yeah. Or Nelson Ledges.
I haven't seen that one.
You change direction about 3 times and there's 14 corners.
Well, it is a beautiful night outside, that's for sure. It's been a while since we've been back here in the studio working together. When's the last time we did a stream together? It had to have been.
I couldn't even tell you. It's been a month, maybe.
It's got to be more than that. Man, it's been a while. It's good to be back, though. We got a host of them coming up this week. Of course, we got the Porsche Canada Esports Series tomorrow night. Of course, we've got on Sunday the Apex V2R Endurance Series for the Canadian endurance folks. And the oval stuff is all but gone, with the exception of Indy Elite and Outsiders just continuing to the end of their season. So more nights are becoming available here in the SimTV household, which is a nice, pleasant change in pace as of late. All right, let's head down to the racetrack and get our starting lineup underway here, Tom. On the front row, it's going to be Murphy Nichols and Andrew Chow in the front row in the Mustang category. Will Robbins, Peter Lauzon in row number 2. Then it's Francois Brou and Dave Fitzgerald in row number 3 for the Mustangs. You got the MX-5s.
That's it, and that's all. So that means Ken House-Seal, everyone takes the grid. He will get driver's right coming down into turn 1 alongside Ryan Maloney, the top 2 in the championship, top 2 on the grid. Then Morgan Burkhardt and Peter Schnorr will line up side by side in row number 2 for the MX-5s. Jamison Huffman is in with a shot for the championship. He starts 5th alongside Sebastian Landy. Then it's Jack Chrissy and Forrest Landy in the 4th row. David Stern and Bob Shoemaker are in the 15th and 16th positions overall. Sly Stafford, Louis Alessi, Brian McRae, Adam Crandall round out our qualifying times, but Danny Gross at the very, very back in the in-and-out car. He will be fun to watch coming through the field, I think.
A lot of action about to be had here at Virginia International Raceway. Keys to the race here, Tom. Lime Rock rehash. Going to be very similar to the race at Lime Rock. We saw the MX-5s have their race very rudely disrupted by a couple Mustangs having a bit of a scrap at the front of the field. That could happen again here, given the track layout and the field we've got.
Yeah, not a lot of time between the two classes, but we have maybe half or fewer cars on the track, so that might not be as big of a deal, but it is the finale for group number 1. We have 2 championships on the line here. They're both up for grabs, and they have prizes in the real world, so we definitely have stakes tonight.
Track Night America entry for the champion of each category. The Uncharted South here, Tom. This racetrack is not new to anyone in terms of the venue, but the layout we're running is one that these drivers have likely never raced on before, unless they were messing around at Legends in a hosted race. This is not a layout you typically run. There's a lot to learn for everybody tonight.
Of course, VIR South Circuit using half of the Patriot course, half of the VIR main full circuit, coming through the Oak Tree corner now towards the green flag. Not Oak Tree yet, but coming towards the Oak Tree corner for the green flag. Yeah, it's a bit of a mystery, especially as racetrack goes.
So with the field getting ready to line up here for the start, we've got about a 25-lap race, 30 minutes. It's going to be going up on the board, and a reminder to those watching from home, no interviews tonight. We've got to head off to another live stream directly after. The winners from this race will be interviewed prior to our next race in 2 weeks' time. That will be the overall season finale We'll see you there to talk to our race winners. All right, the clock is going to begin in just a few seconds here, Tom. 6 Mustangs and about 15 MX-5s about to go racing from VIR, the DC Region Virtual Racing League, the penultimate round of the season. Green flag flies, we're racing from VIR.
Wow, the green flag came out super early, and now it looks like maybe connection issues a bit for Murphy Nichols. Then alongside the outside, Andrew Chow gets a bit of a run. The Mustangs are fanned out.
Down into the bench down in turn number 1, and double wide through the middle of the pack here, and it's real awkward for a moment, but Murphy Nichols is the driver that's going to prevail. Lausen drops into 4th. Big slide by Andrew Chow on corner exit. Now back to the MX-5s. He's scrambling, buzzing bees up till turn number 1. Hauseil's already clear at the front. And
Jamison Huffman is going with him. That's going to shuffle Morgan Ryan Maloney around the outside. Whoa. And then a car off. Whoa, misses everybody. No way.
That was insane. That was the 11 of David Stern. I cannot believe that he just did that. That was amazing. Went through the middle of everybody and made it through. So he will just drop to the tail of the field. Otherwise is clean and clear. Hauseil leads. Maloney, Burkhardt, Huffman, and Schnorr, the rest of your top 5 here in MX-5s. No changes in the Mustangs. I imagine that's going to be the way how it sort of shakes out right out of the gate. But clean starts other than the scare from David Stern. We're through.
Ryan Maloney did a great job to hold the outside around turns 1 and 2, and actually Morgan Burkhardt was able to shuffle Jamison Huffman back a bit. I think those cars are team cars. You see the inverted black and white with the red accents in 3rd and 4th. So Huffman, who is in with a shot in the championship, needs to catch not only his teammate, but the other 2 fastest cars on the track. Maloney, with that power move around the outside, keeps himself P2 just behind Ken Hauseil.
Through Oak Tree and back out up onto the front straightaway. Lap 1 complete for the Mustangs, and Murphy Nichols pulling away. Adam Crandall has found his way into the tire barrier here. This is on the entry to Oak Tree. That's a bit of a strange spot to have an incident. I'm curious how he found himself. Oh, he was off way at South Bend.
Coming into South Bend a lot slower on this layout, but it's still such a tough corner to keep the car on the track in. You see he just watches wide on the cold tires and then gets away from him as he's trying to come back on track. Ooh, Louis Alessi almost got a whole lot of surprise hit from ahead, we'd call that. But he dodges it.
Another car around is Brian McRae in the number 98. He's also had a bit of an oopsie, and Louis Alessi goes wide to try to miss him. And he just gets out wide and off into the dirt. Oh, contacts drivers. That was a 719, a Sly Stafford. Here's what, well, never mind. I was going to go back and look at what it looked like from on board, but hit the wrong button there, Tom. So,
what is it, your first day?
Maybe.
No, I think we're seeing a lot of the challenges that people may have not raced on this track wheel to wheel. And getting caught off guard. You know, you get in your rhythm in qualifying and practice, but then when you take a green flag, all bets are off as far as your own rhythm. Another dip of the tires for Brian McRae just in front of David Stern. Meanwhile, Danny Gross up to 9th in class in the MX-5s. Car number 72, he's charging.
Making this look really easy. Started 21st overall, up to 15th. That's +6 in the early going. Back up in the Mustang category, Murphy Nichols leads the way by 0.7 of a second over Andrew Chow. And Chow is not going away, I'll just say that. He's starting to feel like he's closing in just a touch. Sly Stafford has had another issue in the 719. He hits pit lane, probably to fix some of that damage we saw earlier. And for the race lead, Maloney going to try to over-under Hauseil here. It's frantic in MX-5s.
Yeah, I noticed in qualifying the preferred line is a really late apex. You leave the entry open into turn number 1, and then you get down to the curbing very late in turn 2. They drive as one corner, but that means that you're inside in the braking zone is completely unprotected. And look at how off-kilter Hauseil looks coming down through turns 4, 5, and 6. The pressure is really on from Ryan Maloney.
And he's going to keep that pressure on. He's not going anywhere as we roll through the tight and twisties here. And Morgan Burkhardt is keeping him honest as well, sitting back there in 3rd. A bit of a gap back to Peter Schnorr. But the front 3 still on top of each other, and then back to Mustangs. Murphy Nichols maybe feeling some pressure now from Chow. He's racing better than he was qualified.
You're right. Chow is doing a great job on the colder tires. Talked about how long it takes for the temps to come up on the Mustangs, and really it looks like Nichols maybe got too good at the car when it's good in qualifying. He forgot how to drive it with the colder tires. Andrew Chow, I think, had a reset in qualifying and has really got the pressure on.
Dave Fitzgerald in the number 91 has had a bit of a spill back there in 6th. In the Mustangs. Big curb jump and a missed apex for Murphy Nichols there, Tom. Easy to do there, but he gets right back online and gets right back on the bike.
Well, lucky for him is the consequences are low through that section. There's just not really anywhere to go. So Andrew Chow saw it all happening but couldn't do anything with it. He's got to get that opportunity moving a little bit different spot on the track. MX-5 is getting interesting though.
Yeah, Morgan Burkhardt had a launch on Ryan Maloney. He was fully alongside. There was a bit of a net code touch there. And Maloney held on to 2nd, but just barely. That was a moment where I think Maloney realized that he's not only pressuring House Heel, he's got someone knocking on his rear bumper as well, so he's got to keep his eyes open. Jamison Huffman's falling into the clutches of Jack Chrissy in the number 6.
He's deep into the fishhook as well, gets it squared up and comes off the corner nice and early. So the 89, not a huge threat yet from Jack Chrissy, but Chrissy almost into the grass on the entry to South Bend. Luckily, they're not going very fast yet.
Was on the grass actually, and that's a really dangerous area to unload the tires up onto the grass, or load up the tires onto the grass rather. Huffman really feeling the pressure. Smoke cloud up ahead. Almost a touch between those two. Whoa, missed shift for Chrissy. Missed the gear. To go back up into the Mustang, speaking of missed gears. Well, the good news for Murphy Nichols is that this is a hard place to pass in a Mustang. Big bobble there by Andrew Chow, working the rear tires. And Will Robbins is also now approaching the equation in the number 35.
Yeah, this is shaping up to be a really exciting race. We're only 5 minutes in, 6 minutes in, 24 minutes to go. I think really the only passing opportunity that I see as an obvious place to get a run is down that front straightaway between Oak Tree and turns 1 and 2. So that seems to be where Murphy Nichols has got a pretty good handle on the field.
David Stern in the number 11. We documented his slip up on lap number 1. He had some help from behind that time around. That was the 55 of Bob Shoemaker. Got in there a little hot and turned him around. Again, a lot of blind braking zones here. Really easy to make a mistake. About a half a second between both of our class leaders right now. But again, Murphy Nichols, I think, is going to get better as this race goes on. He's already starting to stretch that lead back out. It was down to about 2/10. Now it's back out to 6. So he's starting to stretch that gap a little bit. But I don't think he can get too confident and start kind of wheeling the car a little bit. He's got to be careful. Doesn't overheat the tires and fall back into the clutches of Andrew Chow.
Down that straightaway, the draft isn't strong enough to really change positions, but if you're within this distance, you can certainly use it to kind of stay close, and I think right now Andrew Chow is getting a bit of help with that as well. See, Murphy is definitely hustling the car more on the infield. I don't know if it's actually helping him or not, though. Will Robbins is still within striking distance, as is Peter Lausen, and remember, Lausen, if he wins this race, wins the championship, but right now he's on the back foot big time.
Back up to MX-5s. It's beginning to accordion the front 4 back together now. Is House Heel maybe holding them up? Maloney was quicker the last few times around. So was Morgan Burkhardt. And the quickest of the front 5 was actually the 4th place car, Peter Schnorr. He was 3/10 better last time by.
Schnorr looked like he had a bit of a moment coming down the hill, though, and has dropped off the back of this battle. So he was really fast and then threw it all away. He's still within within drafting distance, I would say, of Morgan Burkhardt to stay in this top 4, though.
There is Ken Alseal in the number 23, followed by Ryan Maloney in the number 15. So much slip angle you got to throw into these cars to get them to grip up at high speed, and right out to the curbing on corner exit. Again, the draft here a lot more significant for the MX-5s, but still not long enough straightaway for this to really transition into a pass. You're going to get yourself closer, but to actually formulate a pass, you're going to need more straightaway than this, I think.
He's pretty close, though. Ryan Maloney really got a good run off of the Oak Tree corner, and he's going to go to the outside. I think it's going to be a tough order to make anything happen down through turns 1 and 2.
Whoa.
Huffman, though, Burkhardt, way off.
Now, that wasn't even close. He's going to go all the way around the barrier.
Well, we talked about how it's so easy to forget that you're on the short course. Coming down this straightaway.
Oh, man. He's got to find his way back on track. Go back and have a look at that. He missed that by a mile. It was entertaining, to say the least. It's going to go back even further. But again, he just distracted, I think, watching those two up front.
Yeah, probably forgot what layout we're running and just off into the grass. Did a good job not to hit anything, but unfortunately, might have been a little bit better for him to run the grand course.
I was actually sort of impressed that he went around that wall, like knowing exactly where this piece of pavement was going to be. I wouldn't have known to do that. So maybe scoping some off-track locations to get yourself back on course. Is that something you've ever had to use, Tom, in your professional experiences, knowing the access roads? So if you had to get back on course, you could kind of cheat a little bit?
I can't think of a time, but now that you've said it and put it into the universe, it'll probably happen.
I'm just hoping you spend less of your time on access roads and more time on the racetrack.
That's true.
That's a good place to spend your time. Look at the lead again. Maloney right on the tailpipes of House Heel. Driver's left. Here he comes.
Ooh, Maloney is so strong off of Oak Tree, and he's going to chuck it down around the outside. It's not going to happen.
Nope, and he's going to turn. Oh, that's going to be brutal for Ryan Maloney. That could eliminate his opportunity to win this race. That's a big gap now. But same thing, just lost track of where he was and outbraked himself.
I think that is essentially a win for Halcyon with still 20 minutes to go. We're a third in, and now what was a top 4 battle has become a 1-car runaway because of mistakes from other drivers. Now the most interesting battle is this one for 4th.
Jamison Huffman attacking Jack Chrissy. And right ahead of them is Ryan Maloney in that 15 who just resurfaced on track. No changes in the Mustang Big Bore category for the moment. Still Nichols, Chow, Robbins, Lausen, and Brew, the top 5. As we get through the first third of this race, MX-5s have been action-packed as always. Looks like a fun little racetrack, and I like that it's prone to drivers making mistakes because it keeps things interesting up at the front.
Certainly does, and there's no running order change in the Mustangs, but what is different is they've already hit lap traffic somehow with cars having errors in the MX-5 field. This stack up, look at this, a big balk for Murphy Nichols trying to get around, I think that's Adam Crandall?
That is, yeah, I believe that is, yes, that is the 18 of Adam Crandall. It's going to put Andrew Chow on the outside. That's going to cost him as much time as it gained him. And Nichols is going to use that opportunity to try to drive away. I still think Chow netted positive in that exchange, though.
Yeah, I didn't lose much, if anything, but it did separate the top 2 from the 3rd and 4th place cars here in the Mustangs. And now it's not going to get much better for the Mustangs, as now we see Burkhart. Is he calling it quits, perhaps, after that big excursion?
Yeah, I think he just hit pit lane. I don't think he actually crashed. Peeled off. That's a strange one for me, but that might be the end of the night for Burkhart. Back into the Mustangs. Next car on the list is Sly Stafford. And this is really making things interesting. I did not think we were going to have any lap traffic at all. How silly of me. Whoa, look at Chow closing in the brakes, and the 719 runs wide, makes life easy.
It's good heads-up driving from the MX-5 driver there to make sure the top 2 overall can keep their battle going, and that one I think did help Andrew Chow, but they miss a shift. Look at this, he can't get the car in gear and loses maybe 5 car lengths all the way back to Murphy Nichols. Now he used his bogey, and then the mistake from Murphy Nichols. He goes for a big ride. That's guaranteed a cut penalty, so it's going to come back to even again.
Well, that was a big mistake for Murphy, that's for sure. Let's have another look at how he found himself in this scenario. Again, this is a corner that was challenging me, just trying to get a photo of the car on track. He just missed the corner.
Yeah, he was way too late on the brakes, and he might have been looking behind and celebrating slightly on the missed shift for Andrew Chow.
But Andrew Chow's now 3.5 seconds back. And Peter Lausen's in the mix, up into 3rd. Here he comes in the 14. Things are getting real interesting up at the front.
What did we miss? How in the world did Murphy Nichols gain in that whole exchange? I would have thought for sure Andrew Chow would have been able to pull back, but I also would have put money on Murphy Nichols having a cut penalty. Maybe he didn't.
I wonder, this track, this layout, so when I set up the track information for these racetracks, Tom, I use the track ID number. Now, the track ID number is the order in which the track was constructed by iRacing. This is track ID number 7. It's the 7th layout of all the tracks made by iRacing. It is totally conceivable that that corner doesn't have a slowdown penalty there. That corner was probably built before the slowdown penalties even existed. So I'll bet you that you could probably get away with that.
It's very possible. That would be a big surprise, too, because all of a sudden we went from 4/10 to, is that 4 seconds?
4 seconds.
4 seconds somehow. Murphy Nichols leads this race after maybe a mistake from Andrew Chow in exchange from Lausen and Robbins.
Yeah, I'll bet you that there's no slowdown over there. It just feels like that could be something that could happen on a track this old. And again, it's such an underutilized layout that who would ever discover that?
I would have.
Okay, all right,
put me in a truck.
Pants.
Yeah, put me in a truck and I'll try anything. But I mean, it's a big surprise, but also a bit disappointing because I think we had a great battle shaping up in the Mustangs, and now it looks like Murphy Nichols is just about as checked out as Ken Halcyon is, almost exactly.
And to no fault of Murphy Nichols. I mean, if you don't get a penalty, don't stop. But
yeah,
I don't think it really gained him any time. It didn't lose him what we thought it was going to.
No, what I want to know is what happened to Chow after that missed shift, because he clearly missed a shift coming off of turn 2, was in neutral for a long time and lost the gap, but then that only was, I don't know, maybe a second. Yeah, and now it's up to it was 4 seconds. Somehow now Nichols is slowing way down, and now the gap is back down to 2.4. What is happening?
There's all sorts of chaos. Look at back here. This is for second in the GMX5 category. Maloney back on Peter Schnorr here into Oak Tree. Closes in, but I don't think he's close enough to make a pass just yet. But he is out for blood. He's got 5 more seconds to gain and go catch Murphy Nichols.
Well, we know Maloney is really strong off of Oak Tree. He's made the mistake once, but now he's tucked really close into the draft on the back of Peter Schnorr. He will have to go around the long way once again, but you know he will not make the same mistake twice. Makes a big power move. It looked like Storm might have lifted, actually.
I think he did lift. I think he realizes that the only opportunity to catch Ken Hausiel is getting Maloney back up there. But even then, it's still 5 seconds. That's too far, I think, to get in 12 laps. But I've been wrong before, and as DJ Alessandrini now knows, he's watching from home right now, never call a race until it's over. I'm thinking back from NCM. You never know what's going to happen until the checkered flag flies and the drivers cross underneath it. There's always something that can happen, especially now that we know that there's lap traffic going on. He's going to text me all angry about that now.
Ooh, now we've got big damage on the front of Andrew Chow's Mustang. Look at the right front of that car. I don't know if we maybe didn't get a visual on that before and it's been there for a while, or if that's new. The passenger front side of that car is definitely toe up.
So he's definitely had some contact with somebody or something. More likely somebody, but I don't see the matching car to which it belongs. Last time by was a 14.7, so he could have conceivably got that last lap. I'm not seeing it. Tom's investigating in the background right now while I go back up to find some more action. And at the moment, it's Jack Christie and the number 6, Jamison Huffman, one of the closer battles in GMX5. Tom, you are nodding like you found what it was.
Yeah, it actually happened between a lapped MX5. Andrew Chow was unfortunately the victim of a bit of a punt from one of the lappers in the MX5, and that's what created that 4-second gap between the two of them.
It's about 3 laps ago, it looks like.
Yes, so it's definitely heartbreaking for Andrew Chow.
Yeah, that's going to hurt significantly, and DJ is texting me. I saw that coming from a mile away.
DJ, get back to work.
I guess we need to fight now is what he says. He's working on his race car. That's why he couldn't be here tonight. But back to 5th place. Here's Dave Fitzgerald on Francois Brou. This is a battle for top 5 here in GMX5. Good fight between these two.
It's a funny looking GMX5s, but
man, that's a brain fart for the night. Is this my first night? It might actually be.
But yeah, they got a great race going, and they're coming up on some lap traffic in the MX5s as well. We did have Morgan Burkhart retire, so unfortunately that car that was running in the top 3 is out.
Brakes here, and Dave's been getting faster and faster as the night goes on. Francois Brou a little bit off of where he was at this drop of the green flag. I just got a heart from DJ. I think we made up.
Who's your first fight?
Maybe.
Brian Maloney is really pedaling that number 15 car right now, back in second place of MX5s. Whoa, Schnorr is in super deep, but
he's making ground. And
he is.
That's significant. I mean, he gained almost half a second last time by. I don't know if Ken Hausiel had a mistake or something, but he's making up ground for sure. And as is Andrew Chow. He's back 2.6 seconds back. Chow gained a couple tenths of a second last time by, so we still have some racing to do yet. About 12 minutes and 30 seconds to go. And Hausiel running. Whoa, there's a car way off track there. Adam Crandall, he has hit something a ton. I don't know if this is recent. He just came out from behind the barrier like he was trying. Oh, yeah. Oh, here's a look.
Cool recreation of the Formula Drift livery on that car.
Oh, is that what that is? It looks great. Comes up. I don't know if he gets some help. Oh, he just gets the car off course. Maybe looking out the mirrors and bam! Oof. That's a pretty big impact there on those barriers. So from bad to worse for the 18. Now it really looks like a drift car, missing the front bumper and everything.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Except it's not a Sylvia or S13 or something. Even more accurate.
Whatever progress Maloney had made last lap through at the top of MX5 is gone now. Hausiel responded and has put the gap right back to 5 seconds. So not a lot of battling for the wins right now. And if it finishes the way it's running, Hausiel would take the win for the season in MX5s, and Murphy Nichols would take the win in the Mustang Championship. But we still have 10 minutes to go, a little over 10 minutes to go in this one.
About 10 laps worth of time here based on the lap times. We've got great battle here between Brou and Fitzgerald. This has been brewing for some time, and it hasn't quite boiled over just yet. Brewing. Oh, I see what you did there.
You did it. I like what you did.
I didn't do it. You said you forced it to happen. Man, we cannot be together. We haven't done this in a month. We're already throwing jokes out there.
Too much fun.
Too much fun. Man.
Jack Christie cannot shake Jamison Huffman, though, and so we got 2 battles in the top.
Hasn't fizzled at all since the drop of the green, basically. Once Huffman fell behind Jack Christie, they've been pretty much nose to tail, and I'm surprised that Huffman hasn't been able to get back by Jack Christie. I think Huffman's a little faster, but Chrissy's been defending well and just making no mistakes. And that's helping him out quite a bit. On the brakes for turn 1. I think Jamison's still overdriving a little bit into the braking zone. Gave up a lot of time there, but look at all the time he gains on exit. There's a 6 car. There's a mistake he needed. Now side by side for 4th place. Drag race down to the left-hander. Waiting a while for this. Let's see if it pans out.
No, this is such a tough spot to go side by side. Chrissy is a little bit ballsier and chucks the car over the curb through turn 4, 5, and gets the position back. Huffman, a valiant effort to at least brave going side by side up into that braking zone, though.
Been trying that over and over again. Perhaps back to 5th and 6th in Mustang. I know Dave Fitzgerald wants to use that big old Mustang nose to kind of just edge Francois Brou out of the way, but hasn't been able to get up there. I don't think he wants to use the bumper just yet. Still got 9 minutes. The guy can come back and take you out. Not that they're going to do that.
It's true.
They're driving Mustangs. You never know.
He's got to set a good example, though. It is his league.
Yes. Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
And again, they got to be having so much fun right now. I mean, these guys have been doing this for 5 or 6 laps at this point. Back to 4th. Maloney's still making progress on House Seal, but it's not significant to actually write home about. It's still, that's dicey. This is for 4th again. Huffman around the outside trying to make this work and stick, and he can't do it.
Wow, he was close, though. That was a really good try around the high side for turns 1 and 2. And it's not quite like Lime Rock where you have enough momentum around that outside, a little bit of camber to help you. It's more like turn 1 at VIR full course when you just got to have the inside line. Wow, Huffman has definitely got the car under him right now, though. He just can't find a way around.
And with 8 minutes left, you're starting to maybe run through some more scenarios in your head. What have I been doing that's not working, and what have I not tried that might work? And whoop, the 6 car runs wide. I think keeping the pressure on is what's going to work for Huffman. Chrissy's made 2 mistakes, though, and Jamison has not been able to capitalize completely.
Flat out through South Bend, coming onto that the upper S is so slow that you can just flat foot. A little bit of brake lock up from Peter Schnorr just ahead. Doesn't distract either of them. Oh, maybe it does. Chrissy is a little deep into Oak Tree, but he makes it work.
Yeah, he rolled that. Again, these cars, they corner so well and they rotate so well that even if you turn in late, they still rotate around, and you're not really struggling to get back on power. They will just turn on a dime. But look at the run that Huffman's got. Is he going to outbrake himself again, though? He's been struggling with this in turn 1. Here he comes. Oh, he's late on the brakes right behind the 6. And Chrissy defends nicely to driver's left and keeps him behind. Great battle here as we continue to work our way down the hill. Up front, Murphy Nichols in the Mustangs hasn't moved from his leading position. Andrew Chow got close early in the going, but hadn't been able to capitalize and actually make a pass. Houseel has led since the drop of the green. Maloney brought a fight to him once, then drove way off course and has been since trying to dig himself out of that hole. Forrest Landy and Sebastian Landy right now running 6th and 7th.
Noticing drivers getting really deep into the fishhook corner that they just came through it, starting to maybe get a bit brave on the brakes there and maybe at a detriment. I think Jack Chrissy was also a little too deep coming out of that corner. Jamison Huffman squared it up nicely, but I don't think it changed their track position much. Well, it did. He closed up pretty well.
And again, what do you do when you get here? He's tried right, he's tried left. You're kind of running out of options at this point, I think. And he's not close enough now to... Every time I say that, they seem like they get this extra little boost that brings them right up. It makes me regret saying what I say, but as a look up the inside, Chrissy turns in, and again, not close enough. Whoa, a little wide there. That's a mistake for Huffman. That's going to cost him a bunch of time. Back to Forrest and Sebastian Landy, still running nose to tail in 6th. Danny Gross, David Stern. Haven't talked about those guys in a while, running 8th and 9th in class. And the Brou and Fitzgerald battle has fizzled for now.
Pretty good recovery for David Stern. He's the car that we saw go bowling down into turn 1 and luckily missed everybody, put it in the gutter without any contact, but has recovered for still in the top 10. Danny Gross cut the field in half from 15th up to 8th, but he's well out of touch from anybody unless the Landys get into it here. He might be able to run him down, but it's unlikely.
Murphy Nichols out front in the Mustangs, 5 minutes and 42 seconds left. That puts us about 5 laps to go next time by. James Alessi. Oh, he's way off track. Where did he end up? Letting some traffic on by, I think. And Sebastian Landy has found his way into the tire bundles here at Oak Tree. And that might be the end of the night for him.
Such a high-risk, high-reward corner. You got to carry entry speed in to get the most out of the lap, but it's so easy to just go off, and it's blind too. To add insult to injury, get put into a wall real quick. Calls it a day.
Not what he needed for sure. And with that, Francois Brou, and we'll let Fitzgerald on through, so that change of position has finally happened down here by Oak Tree. And he just got held up by traffic there, I think, and Dave just chucked it up the inside, saw the opportunity come, decided not to back out. I think Brou was being careful again, watching out for the incidents here, Tom, but too careful. Bye. Here comes Dave.
That's a great move. And now it looks like Brou is going to have a look back at him, coming down into turns 1 and 2. They're side by side.
Oh, here they go, down through turns 1 and 2, and through goes Francois right back.
Takes it right back.
Well, no more traffic to set that one up for Dave, but did it get him a little bit more confidence to just throw it down the inside of the corner? Is it trusting the brakes that has been an issue for Dave tonight? I mean, he just saw Francois drive right on by.
He was awful confident going up into South Bend, or into Oak Tree, I should say, but you're right, he kind of left the door open down the front straightaway, and it also looked like Francois was able to get a really good run off of Oak Tree down towards turn 1. They were side by side well before they even hit the brakes.
Power shifting now. You heard the clutch go down and the throttle not come up, so he is definitely on it. Trying to find any sort of rotation. See the wheel wobble back to the left. If you go hard enough left, you'll find yourself going right. There's a car's quote.
There you go.
I got one in.
Got to get one in there. I think both of these cars are actually throwbacks to the same IMSA car that ran different liveries in the same season. I can't remember exactly, but they're definitely both Michelin Pilot Challenge references.
I remember seeing those cars, yeah. Definitely get it. There's Dave Fitzgerald. Still within 2 car lengths, but just stuck in purgatory behind the 69. These cars are so big, it's just hard to find racetrack. Oh, there was a swipe. Swipe or no swiping.
Got a Cars and a Dora the Explorer reference. Well done. Whoa, okay, I'm looking at the MX-5 battle. Jack Chrissy, Jamison Huffman. They're down in turn 1, and Huffman almost collected Jack Chrissy down into the braking zone there. He got it slowed up, but these two cannot get away from each other, even after Huffman, with the mistake in turn 1 a couple laps ago, has responded a couple quick laps, and they are really going at it hard for 4th place, just off the podium, and somehow Peter Schnorr has found his way back around Ryan Maloney.
Yeah, he just got back there the old-fashioned way, I think, put Maloney behind him. But they've both lost time to Ken House-Seal with only 2 minutes left and 2 laps to go next time by, Tom. I think you're looking at potential season champions for Group 1, Murphy Nichols and Ken House-Seal, putting on performances. As we're looking back at the other monitor here, looks like Maloney ran wide again in turn 1, caught him off guard again. So for Murphy Nichols coming to, actually, yes, it looks like it will be 2 laps to go. It's going to be pretty tight within 15 seconds or so of being only 1 lap. Speaking of 1 lap, hey, congratulations on winning your 1 lap of America competition.
Thank you very much.
I say your as if it was something you made up.
The
national competition.
We were supposed to go to VIR until it got replaced by Summit Point, unfortunately, but both homes of the DC region, so it was cool. Actually saw a bunch of DC region friends there. They came out on the Thursday we were there and said hi. I don't think I saw any of these guys. No, I didn't, but plenty of DC friends.
Oh, Dave Fitzgerald, he's just absolutely ripping this thing right now, trying to get by Francois Brou. Closing in again into the braking zone. Here's a dive up the inside of Oak Tree. That's a tight move. Gets the door slammed shut. And sandwiched between the tires and the 69's quarter panel. That was opportunistic there a little bit, I think.
I was going to say, maybe getting a little bit desperate. He knows he's coming to 2 to go. And I have to wonder almost, is Fitzgerald staying too close to the back of Francois Brou and not have any opportunity for a run? Because it looks like he's definitely the quicker car.
Yeah, maybe, for sure. As we got 40 seconds left in this race, there's Jack Christie, Jamison Huffman. for fourth in
Chrissy,
GMX5.
off.
He's off the racetrack, and there goes Huffman. Finally, he just had to wait for the cracking of Jack Chrissy, and cracked he did.
That was the luckiest recovery I've ever seen. Not lucky, I mean, he salvaged it, whatever happened there, luck or talent. Jack Chrissy kept the car as composed as you possibly can while also going off at Oak Tree. And he kept himself in this fight, actually. They're still nose to tail.
White flag out for Murphy Nichols. And it's one more time around for the race leader in the Mustang Big Bore category. And Jack Chrissy is not done yet with Jamison Huffman, that's for sure. They're going to get one more lap of their own here. Oh, big slide through the tight stuff. But I think Jamison, as long as he doesn't make a mistake, he should be able to hang on to this. But they're going to have a whole other lap also. That's going to throw one good passing opportunity Jack Chrissy's way.
Yep. And just up the road, the other battle that's not done, somehow Ryan Maloney is still within striking distance of Peter Schnorr. There they are. Schnorr is in the kind of off-white eggshell colored car to number 32. Maloney is on it so hard right now in the white with black and red and blue. Coming to one to go for second place in Global MX5.
Checkered flag out for Murphy Nichols in the number 5 Smoketown Brewing Station car. Finally, and towards the tail end of the season here, he's going to grab a victory and also potentially the championship. Murphy Nichols wins at VIR in the DC Region SCCA Virtual Racing League. Congratulations to Murphy. And we will talk to him at the beginning of next round in 2 weeks' time. Back to the MX5 category, though. It's getting real wild. Huffman and Chrissy side by side. Chrissy on the outside, Huffman on the inside. Now the run down to the left-hander here at the bottom of the hill.
This is for fourth. I think Chrissy has been behind for about a lap and a half, but he's trying everything he can.
This is getting real dicey here. Chrissy right on the tailpipes of the 89. And I think his good passing opportunities are gone. He's going to have to force it if he wants to make it work.
Oh, up the road from them, second place, side by side. Ryan Maloney tries the outside through South Bend. This is a straightaway in these cars, single file, but side by side power move from Ryan Maloney with a run off of the fishhook through South Bend and picks up second place with 2 corners to go. He just needs to keep it on the track. Wow.
Ken Ausil wins MX5s here at VIR. Congratulations to Ken Ausil. He also should pick up the season championship as well. Ryan Maloney, Peter Schnorr second and third, and Jamison Huffman is going to grab 4th place as long as Jack Chrissy can't outdraft him back to the checkers. He will not, unless Huffman misses a shift, which he will not. Huffman 4th, 5th is Jack Chrissy. Let's quickly run down the finishing order here, Tom, because I got to head out of here. But what a great race we had, especially in the MX5s. Fantastic run. Murphy Nichols wins in the number 5.
Super entertaining, but Andrew Chow kept the pressure on super early, and honestly, the gap maintained right there till the very end. Peter Lau's in 3rd, so Murphy Nichols comes home with the championship. And MX5s, you're correct. Ken Ausil will take the championship by 1 whole point over Ryan Maloney, who led by 6 points coming into tonight. The spread for tonight's points is 7. So that means Ken Ausil should take the win. Peter Schnorr, with a super consistent race, will come home in 3rd.
Solidly done. The rest of the field having a pretty good run as well. Some good battles there. Jack Chrissy just missing out, still finishes top 5. That's going to do it for this week. We're going to see you in 2 weeks' time for the season finale of the DC Region SCCA Virtual Racing League. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next time here on Sim TV.